Welcome back. Now, the world gets to celebrate the International Day of Peace on the 21st of this month, and this is a day that is set aside to ensure that we strengthen the ideals of peace. And in line with that, I am joined in the studio by Joy Wandabwa, who is the team leader for the Program for Christian-Muslim Relations in Africa, an organization that deals with promoting peace and ensuring that we coexist as a people. Welcome to the program, Joy.
Thank you very much.
You're doing well?
Yes, I am well.
Yeah. If you may just get us into, tell us a bit about what the program is all about.
Okay, so the Program for Christian-Muslim Relations in Africa is a Pan-African Christian organization founded in 1959 and has been promoting peace around Africa for over 60 years. And we target to work with mainly religious leaders, that is churches, mosques, youth, women, and other stakeholders who are primary to peace building around the world. Yes.
And what do you exactly do in this particular organization?
So what we do is we organize seminars, conferences, programs to capacitate or build the capacity of religious leaders to understand why it is important to have peace and peaceful coexistence within the communities that we work. PROCMURA mainly focuses on promoting peace between Christians and Muslims. And why Christians and Muslims is because Muslims and Christians are the two main dominant religions in Africa. And so it is important for them to be at peace with one another. You are aware that across Africa, in many countries today, there's been a lot of implication of religion when it comes to peace matters. Going across the globe, we are working in countries like Nigeria, Cameroon, and all that. You are aware about the issue of Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, and all that. So we see it as important that religion has to play carefully in the matters around peace, so that religious leaders can stand out and say, for example, religion cannot be used to fight wars. Instead of that, it can be used to build bridges and bring peace to the communities. So that is what PROCMURA does. Through media campaigns such as this one, promoting awareness so that people can begin to understand that despite our religious differences, we all profess different faiths, but we cannot use this to go against one another. The program has been there in existence for the past 60 years, as you've just mentioned. Just how effective has it been? Well, we have been effective in the sense that now we have endeared ourselves to bring key stakeholders on board. We are working with the youth. For example, in Kenya here right now, we have what you call PROCMURA chapters in learning institutions. We have managed to work in more than 17 countries across Kenya so that we can bring this issue of tolerance. Because you see...
17 counties?
17 universities, learning institutions around Kenya, where we have instituted what we call PROCMURA chapters, or if you like, peace clubs. So through these chapters, the youth can they can rally together within the universities, not necessarily, looking at their religious affiliations, but finding common points of concern. As an interfaith or Pan-African Christian organization, we are also able to address issues such as interfaith marriages and what it entails. So we have women programs, we have also women empowerment, girl-child empowerment programs, so that we find points of commonality. For example, instituting empowerment centers in places like Turkana, in Juba, South Sudan, where again there's peace and conflict. So our main target is also to see those communities that have been invaded by conflict or war, and how do we find points of reconciliation so that we can build bridges with them.
We all have to agree that peace is paramount, and without peace, truly, And according to you, what are some of the things that people tend to ignore? They don't really see it as if there were no peace right now, this and this would not happen. You know, I'm sure that there are so many things that we tend to assume that it's just normal. But if, according to you, if you may just shed some light on some things that we get to enjoy right now, and we don't really give it back to the fact that it's simply because we are living in a peaceful country.
Okay, from where I sit, I see that peace and security are paramount. And my organization believes that without peace, there can be no development. So sometimes we see development around us and we think that, you know, we take it for granted. You can visit countries around Africa who have known no peace. They even have the resources, you know, look at DRC and all those other places, South Sudan. But then their resources have not been able to contribute to the peace. Instead, the resources in these countries are kind of like even encouraging more conflict, because again now we are fighting over the resources. When you look at some countries that are so-called peaceful, you'll find that there are issues, for example, people are sleeping hungry. Again, you cannot be at peace as an individual at home if your children are sleeping hungry. You'll also have to find ways of looking out. How do you bring peace? Because peace begins with me. And it must be able to start in the home. Look at issues of domestic violence, for example. Some of us take it for granted. There are some families that have been disintegrated because of domestic violence. So what is peace? Peace does not always mean conflict and war at all the time. Peace can be, you know, interpreted into so many other things. And when you don't have that comfort, that peace, you're not able to sleep because you're worried. You don't have education. You don't have infrastructure. You don't have food to eat. You know, you're poor, but your country is peaceful. You at yourself as an individual, you're not at peace. So those are some of the things that we don't break down and look at it from that point of view, that what does it mean to be peaceful? And looking at the United Nations and the Sustainable Development Goals, we are looking at justice for all. And just as you've said, we are going towards the Peace Week. We call it the Peace Week. Next week is going to be a Peace Week. Different organizations are going to be looking at it. And our theme this year is My Actions for Peace, or Actions for Peace. So as an individual, what are your peace actions? How are you influencing the community around you to be peaceful? So it doesn't mean that it's only the government, for example, that is supposed to bring peace. You and I and all the other stakeholders, the communities, the societies that we live in, we have a contribution to make towards peace and a peaceful society, so that we can achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And this year again marks the middle of the Sustainable Development Goals. We only have about, I think, 10 or 7 more years to go to Vision 2030. Where are we at? And what is it that we are celebrating? Are we able to say that Africa or Kenya as a country, have we been able to achieve these Sustainable Development Goals?
Actually, my next question was on something that you've touched about a bit, and that is the responsibility. What responsibility exactly do we all as individuals have in ensuring that we're living in peaceful communities, or we have peace among ourselves?
I think we all have responsibility, and for PROCMURA, we look at it from the point of view, just as I mentioned, peace begins with me. And we look at Christianity as a peaceful religion, and also Islam as a peaceful religion. And if you look at Islam, they begin by saying in the morning, Assalamu alaikum, which means, are you also looking out at your neighbor? For example, in Islam, if your neighbor is not at peace, it means you also owe that neighbor the issue of reaching out to him to promote peace. So we all have individual responsibilities that we are tasked by, beginning from even the Bible point of view, because Christ himself was a Prince of Peace. So looking at the way we are cultured, the way we are geared, and looking at Africa, which is our continent today, Africa is a religious continent, and also culture comes into play. So using those those, norms that we have been brought up with, how do we action peace with our neighbors, with ourselves, with our communities, and see how to promote that.
Yeah. You've talked about Africa and the coexistence between Christians and Muslims. I don't know, would you say that from a point of view of where you sit, since this is something that you guys look into, would you say that as Kenyans we've gotten to a place where our coexistence is at its best? As Muslims and Christians?
Years back, before this issue of promoting, Christian-Muslim relations came, and PROCMURA is actually an organization that is working around 23 African countries and happens to be headquartered in Kenya. And so many Kenyans who heard about the name Program for Christian-Muslim Relations, they actually asked, what is this that you're trying to promote? Does it really work? Is there coexistence? Is there peace between Christians and Muslims? And by then, I can say 10, 20 years ago, we did not really think that this was important. But today, the world has changed. We have a lot of issues that are coming up between Christians and Muslims, and we have moved towards that coexistence, because you actually even see that in our institutions, you see that in government, whereby equality tends to play a role. In other African countries, for example in Nigeria, if you go there, you will find that the leadership, they try to have equality, and you will see that the vice president or the president is Muslim, and the vice president is Muslim. Why? Because they all need to sit on the same table. Kenya has moved towards that. Today, in our society, we have learning institutions, we have church institutions, we have mosques, where we are coexisting. A few years back, for example, if you remember the Garissa University attack, there was a lot of stigma. Who caused this? Who said this? And who did that? So from where we sit today, we can see that Christians and Muslims, especially here in Kenya, we don't have, a big conflict between us. We are able to coexist, we are able to work in institutions together, we are able to go to the same neighborhood, we are able to shop together. So Kenya has grown towards that peaceful coexistence. Before that, you used to say that maybe counties like Mombasa or Garissa are Muslim counties, isn't it? But today, when we go to those counties, we found Christians there. Today, if you come here, you'll find that the church and the mosque are coexisted. On one side, you find the church. On the other side, you find a mosque. That shows that there is coexistence. All
right, which is a good thing.
Which is a good thing. We are moving there. We are not at conflict.
Yeah, now talk to me about the gala that is set to happen.
Yeah, so PROCMURA is looking at, winding up the Peace Week next week on Friday, to bring all peace actors into one conversation, whereby we celebrate the actions for one another, religious communities, institutions, learning institutions. So we are going to bring all these stakeholders to celebrate peace, and also to call for action, peace actions. There are countries that are not at peace. What can we do together? So our focus next week is to bring all the actors, particularly in Kenya, both international organizations, local organizations, youth, women-led organizations, to come into a gala. And we're also going to have artists, media, so that they can all have that conversation around peace. Yeah. Talk to me about the theme that you will be running with, because it is different from the main theme of the Peace Day. So usually we look at the peace, the overall goal theme, but then we come up with our own, because we are saying our actions for peace. That is the theme that we are coming up with, so that we recognize each stakeholder that is going to be there. What actions have they taken towards building a culture of peace around us? Okay. Yes. Thank you so much for coming to the show, and thank you so much for shedding light on what you do, at the organization, which is a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for having us. All right. This is where we take a short break, but don't you go too far. We'll be back with more right here on Good Morning Kenya.